Mr. Biden, I know you said you wasn't going to give us anything after we took our booties to the poll in the 2020 election and gave you the presidency, the House, and the Senate. But I'm hoping that you'll have a change of heart and give us something in the 2024 election if we go out here and take our booties to the poll in large numbers. Are you going to give us any tangibles? Tangibles? I've got something better than tangibles to give you, colored folks. I've got migrants. Plenty of migrants to give you. And you'll have plenty of migrants to come to your community and do all the work, take all of your jobs, and take everything from your community from you. So you colored folks are going to get something from me, and it's migrants. You're going to get a migrant. You're going to get a migrant. And you're going to get a migrant. Maybe we shouldn't take our booties to the poll without a black agenda.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller.
Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue.
New York City has opened up a re-ticketing center to provide migrants with a plane ticket to anywhere in the world outside of New York City.
This is Chicago's very own WGN Evening News at 5.
New York City is offering migrants a free one-way ticket to anywhere in the world. The city's established a new re-ticketing center in Manhattan where asylum seekers can pick up the ticket. The effort is New York's latest bid to ease pressure on its shelters and finances. More than 130,000 asylum seekers have arrived since last year. City's mayor warned shelters are so full, migrants will soon be forced onto the streets as winter approaches.
Now, this re-ticketing center, which was opened in the East Village last week, offers all of the migrants who entered the country illegally a free plane ticket to anywhere in the world outside of New York City. And it looks like this re-ticketing center is the latest campaign by New York Mayor Eric Adams to try to deal with the migrant crisis that has overrun and overwhelmed New York City over the past year. And this re-ticketing center is another part of the about face of the Adams administration, which back in 2022 bragged that they would be able to handle all of the migrants that then Texas Governor Greg Abbott was going to bus to New York City in an effort to challenge its sanctuary city policies that were established by Andrew Cuomo and Bill de Blasio back in 2020 or 2018 or so. So back in 2021, New York Mayor Eric Adams had an opportunity to walk away from those policies established by Bill de Blasio and Andrew Cuomo. However, instead of him looking to stand up and be his own man, what he looked to do was go out here and bootlick and pander to members of the Blue Party in an effort to create a covert contract with members of the Biden administration, believing that he would be able to go out here and if he toed the party line, this would open a door for him to get a job in Joe Biden's cabinet, and that he possibly could go from being the Biden of Brooklyn to being a part of the Biden administration to becoming the next president of the United States. However, all of those dreams wound up getting dashed as Eric Adams went on his campaign to virtue signal to higher up members in the Blue Party like Governor Kathy Hochul and President Joe Biden when Texas Governor Greg Abbott called many of these sanctuary cities on their bluff and began busing all of these individuals who had entered the country illegally, claiming to be asylum seekers, busing them into up to the sanctuary cities. And as they were bussed into the sanctuary cities, Eric Adams greeted them with open arms, giving them handshakes, giving them smiles, and offering them everything as related to benefits from the city, even passing over homeless New Yorkers and homeless veterans to give many of the migrants many of the perks and benefits that many homeless New Yorkers and homeless veterans don't receive. And as we started to see this influx of migrants, eventually what happened to Eric Adams is that he started to get overwhelmed around March of 2022, when only 30,000 migrants came into New York City. And as those 30,000 migrants came into New York City, they began overwhelming the city's hotels and shelter system to the point where they wound up getting maxed out. And as they got maxed out, this is where Eric Adams started to feel overwhelmed as related to the fiscal cost of trying to take care of all of these migrants. And as he started to get overwhelmed by the cost of trying to care for all of these migrants, that's when he started to go out here and started to make an about face from his early position of trying to virtue signal to the Biden administration of being able to toe the party line on migrants and immigration, to wanting to be the first to start to cry uncle by complaining about the budgetary costs of all of these migrants, and was looking to beg for help from Governor Kathy Hochul, and also begging for help from President Joe Biden. And as he begged for help from these individuals, he got nothing but silence. And as he got nothing but silence, this is where Eric Adams wanted to go out here and change his tune, looking to try to first discourage many of the migrants, first by trying to bring flyers down to the border and then visiting the border himself, hoping to discourage migrants from coming to New York City. However, the migrants just kept coming, and they just kept coming because many of these individuals were spellbound and caught up in the ideas they saw on TV shows like Friends, Seinfeld, and Sex and the City, and they wanted to live the New York dream, so they wanted to keep coming to New York City in spite of Eric Adams' pleas for them to not come. And even though he tried to do everything to discourage them by saying that the city had no resources, he also then looked to try to make things worse by trying to discourage them by not having buses come to the Roosevelt Hotel, which had been made into an intake center. And he tried to make things worse by making it where they had to walk to the Roosevelt Hotel. Then he also had people sleeping on the street. However, as conditions got more and more squalid outside the Roosevelt Hotel in the summer, as people slept on the streets, many business owners started to complain. And as those business owners, who were in some cases campaign donors, started to complain, that's where Eric Adams wound up started to realize he was in a bad place. And that's when the Biden of Brooklyn realized that his bootlicking wasn't getting him anywhere, and he started to become more critical of Joe Biden. And as he became more critical of Joe Biden then responded by kicking him off his 2024 presidential campaign. And as Eric Adams has been dealing with this whole nightmare of the migrants, the New York City has become more and more overwhelmed as thousands of individuals come to New York City every day. And as those thousands of individuals come to the city every day, you had Eric Adams going on the air saying that the migrant crisis was going to destroy New York City. However, there wouldn't have been a migrant crisis had Eric Adams kept his mouth shut back in 2021 and not looked to go out here and pander to the members of the Blue Party by towing the party line. Had he not gone out here to look to bootlick and pander to try to create that covert contract to try to get himself a job in the cabinet, he wouldn't have been in this predicament. And now that he is in this predicament, he is sitting here begging for help. And as he realizes that there is no help coming from the Biden administration, what's happening is he's trying to find any way out of this scheme that he got himself in. Now, Eric Adams, basically like George Jefferson on the 1970s TV show The Jeffersons, had this grand scheme to go out here and gain the approval of Mr. Bidendale. And he had this scheme where he thought, oh, he'll take in these migrants, virtue signal to the world that New York City isn't racist like Donald Trump. However, as New York City's budget, which was already in a deficit, got even worse due to trying to pay for all of these migrants. He found himself with no fiscal help from the Biden administration, and now that he sees that he has no help from the Biden administration, he's trying to scramble for a solution to stop the migrants from coming into New York City. And this latest plan, this latest cockamamie scheme, as I see it, is the latest plan to deal with the migrants by offering them a ticket to anywhere in the world. And this plan is to, again, try to so-called decompress the entire migrant situation and keep migrants from overwhelming the cities and states' services. But this whole solution is destined to fail, and it's destined to fail for the exact same reasons that the plan to discourage people from coming to New York will fail, because many people across the globe, they are spellbound by the media that America presents as related to New York being an ideal place to live. This is what was presented to New Yorkers and also the world and on TV shows like Friends, Seinfeld, Living Single, Sex in the City, Caroline in the City, Fired Up. I mean, I can name a dozen New York based TV shows, and these shows had an impact on people all over the world, and those people dream of coming to New York and getting their American dream. Unfortunately, because we have politicians who had their delusions of grandeur, of gaining more political power, these individuals went out here and virtue signaled, believing that they would be able to go out here and be able to rise to a higher occasion by showing how not racist they were, not understanding that this was not about race, this was about respect for boundaries, respect for borders, and when somebody enters your country illegally, what they do is have no respect for your boundaries because you refuse to establish them. And what has happened in New York, because Eric Adams opened the door for no respect for our boundaries and our borders nationally and locally, is that the quality of life in New York City has gone on a major decline, and the city is back in the same place that it was back in the 1970s. And as it's in the same place that it was back in the 1970s, the quality of life has just gotten horrible. Most of our hotels no longer are places for travel and tourism. They have been turned into flop houses for migrants, and many of our places of enjoyment, like our parks and recreational centers, have become migrant centers, and we have no place for New Yorkers because New York politicians did not put New Yorkers first. No, what happened was Eric Adams put his political aspirations first, and as he put his political aspirations first, he wound up turning New York from a place that was considered the crown jewel city of the world into a polished turd of a city. And that's all due to his arrogance and his just incompetence overall, because nobody's going to buy a free ticket to another part of the country, because no other part of the country is going to give you the benefits that you would get in New York City, because New York City gives you the highest SSI benefits. New York City gives you the highest welfare benefits. New York City gives you the highest benefits as related to Medicaid. I mean, this is why people come to New York, to get these benefits. And as long as there are free benefits for migrants, they're going to come here to get those free benefits. And they're also going to come here to work these off-the-books jobs that employers go out here and provide. They're going to go out here and look to work those off-the-books jobs and make that money. That's why you saw so many scooters outside places like the Roosevelt Hotel. And again, this is where nobody has an incentive to leave. And I read an article that said they had no incentive to leave because no other country goes out here and provides free benefits to people who enter the country illegally. No, in other countries, when they have a border and you cross it illegally, what they do is arrest you, and after they arrest you, they send you back where you came from. This is what happened to Travis King when he ran across the border into North Korea. Even though he was a member of the U.S. military, Kim Jong-un said that he was a low-value asset and then sent him back faster than an Amazon return. But we have here in New York a person who can enter the country illegally. They get to stay in a nice hotel. They get to get a lot. They get to get food stamps. They get to get a welfare stipend. They even get to apply for federal benefits. And this is while they're waiting for their asylum papers to be processed. And this is again a slap in the face to most New Yorkers who work and pay taxes for this to be provided. And it is also an insult to all of those veterans who served this country, were paid a pittance compared to what they would get in the free market. Individuals who volunteered to serve their country, and they don't get any respect. And I look at this whole situation with Eric Adams, and again, he just comes up with cockamamie schemes like this whole ticket out of New York City to try to alleviate a situation. And he wants us to believe that this is just due to Biden. No, I have to hold Eric Adams equally accountable for this mess. And I have to hold him equally accountable because it was his virtue signaling back in 2021 and his pandering that led to this whole situation. And in 2022, he was the one who was out here bragging, talking about how he was going to be able to take care of all of these migrants. And once he started to get overwhelmed, that's when he wanted to change his tune. And in 2025, people need to hold him accountable for creating this migrant mess, because it was him and him alone that created this migrant mess. And now that he's created this migrant mess with his big mouth by writing a check his ass can't cash, what he wants to do is make it all about Joe Biden as a deflection. And yes, Joe Biden is accountable for part of this by doing nothing, but he was the one who stood by this. Again, the cream of wheat man cooked up this scheme, and now that the cream of wheat is boiling over the pot as he's overwhelmed with migrants, he's now wanting to try to find ways to get them out of the city, when the solution stares him straight in the face, in that he needs to turn the buses back. Because if you turn the buses back, you put this back on ICE, who is the one who is in charge of all of this. And he doesn't want to do that because that again goes against the party line. But that's what any competent mayor would do in this situation. Any competent mayor says, oh, these people entered the country illegally. I am not supposed to provide them with any service, and that laws like sanctuary city are not things I would acknowledge, because again, that goes against our state and city constitution. And the right to shelter is not for illegal immigrants, it's for American citizens like our homeless and our veterans. And these individuals, they fall under federal jurisdiction, and since they fall under federal jurisdiction, then ICE will deal with them, and ICE will provide for them. ICE will provide the resources for them. And that is how a mayor in the executive branch deals with individuals who come into the city illegally. They send them back and say, this is not a local jurisdictional issue, this is a federal issue, and this is the job of ICE to provide for these individuals. That is what a person who knows their job would do, because they would say the entire sanctuary city concept is unconstitutional. It is not the job of a municipality to provide for individuals who enter the country illegally. No, it is the job of the federal government to let those individuals know that if you enter the country illegally and violate our borders, there will be no rewards for you, there will be no benefits for you, you will be sent back. Because if you were to enter into any other country and trespass like that, they would arrest you, then send you back, because they would say this is a federal matter, it is a matter of our government, not of a city. That is the policies of every other country in the world. But Eric Adams doesn't want to do that because, again, the bootlick from Brooklyn wanted to pander to Joe Biden, and now that he can't pander to Biden anymore, he finds himself in a jam, and he finds himself in a jam on two sides. One side, he finds himself in a jam where he's out here with no support from the Biden of Brooklyn, from Joe Biden, and he finds himself with no support from Governor Kathy Hochul, who was basically put herself in the distance and doesn't have a word to say about anything. He's basically on his own and basically ass out. And we're seeing that the cream of wheat man's cooking up schemes to try to get himself out of this jam. But the whole thing is, the more schemes he cooks up, the more we realize how incompetent he is. And the more incompetent he is, the more it really creates the door to be open for year 3, which is coming up next year, for the white supremacy to introduce its brand new candidate. And that brand new candidate is going to be the one that they used to run against him. Now, I read a New York Magazine article that said that nobody could run against Eric Adams, and I believe that to be bullshit, because I believe right now they're setting up to get their third candidate up to set him up, to take him out, because in between the scandal with the campaign finance and the mismanagement of the migrants, I don't see Eric Adams getting a second term. And if he does get a second term, New Yorkers would deserve all the dysfunction that they're receiving, because only a fool would go out here and vote for a man who has shown that he is completely incompetent, because in less than 2 years he's actually done a job worse than Bill de Blasio, and done a job so bad that New York City, he says that the migrants will destroy New York City. No, I say another term of Eric Adams will destroy New York City and make it a place worse than it was during the days when Ed Koch basically ran the city straight into the ground. Now, if you want to see me make more videos talking about this migrant crisis, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, my vampire novel Eternal Night, or my black sorority novel The Thetas, or my black business novel The Recipe for Success, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. Sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, Godbreaker in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.